All right, good morning, guys. I want to talk today about the book of James. The book of James talks about counting all joy when you fall into various trials. So, taking a post abortive class is really a challenge for women who have gone through this kind of trauma, and then to turn around and to take a class is very courageous. It don't feel shame in taking a class and getting the healing that you need. I'm just waking up this morning. I'm not a morning person. I was up at 6, brought my son to work because he's having car problems, and I am still waking up. But the neat thing about this is I had a beautiful um, like sunrise view, not necessarily sunrise, but like the sun was out. I don't usually see that. And let me see what else. The music on the way home, and I listened to music with my sons. So as he picked a song about God, we listened to that. And then I got home, and the two neighborhood girls, I'm not used to seeing them in the morning getting ready for school, so I got hugs from them. And, when you're going through this, it's really important to have a lot of self care. A lot. I don't think the average curriculum, I want to say, or the average way of going through a class is necessarily the same for everyone. I think you have to be really careful that you have a lot of support and you're feeling like you're being very well cared for. Because if you're not, I think it can actually make things worse sometimes. You can actually like be opening up a can of worms. This curriculum, same curriculum I had before, it's just feeling a lot lighter. It's not as difficult as it was the first time for me. Not as heavy because I've gotten through so much, and I've gotten through about 5 years of stuff before I've taken this class. And there's been a lot. There's been a lot to go through. So as I was thinking about how important it is to have self-care, you come from a place of isolation in the abortion to going through a class, and you have community. You don't have that isolation. You have a sense of sisterhood or bonding, and that's really healthy because you're dealing with that same pain, this time through community. So also today I will be talking to someone else who is higher up about some things, just because it's going to be a safeguard. It's going to it's going to be a place that the communication is going to be even more thorough. And when you've gone through an abortion and the communication wasn't there was no talk about what is an abortion, there's no talk about what exactly a pregnancy is, or not even knowing how far along you were, not knowing whether it was a boy or a girl. When you've had nothing except like, survival, like let's get through this, and just, it's just like, I don't know. I was kind of raised in a way where you just do stuff. You just do it. You don't talk about it. You just do it. And that's great for the most part, to be a doer. James even talks about the word of God, be a doer, not a hearer only. When you live your life and you have routines, like last night I was feeling kind of heavy and I still went to the gym. And that routine of going to the gym actually helped me, because it helped me stay focused and stable with dealing with all these emotions. So you want to have routines in your life. I've pretty much always have had routines since I started homeschooling my kids. I kind of had some kind of structure in place, and that's been really like a lifesaver to have that structure. What else? So when you're dealing with stuff, like I had a memory come up about the doctor. I remember feeling the doctor's anger. I remember he was just like, he acted kind of disgusted with me, just like, here, put this on, and kind of threw like the thing to me, like the nighty thing, and then open your legs. He was kind of rough. His bedside manner was rude. But the nurse was just holding my hand, and this was in a doctor's office, and she was like, "It's going to be okay, honey, it's going to be okay." And she just, she was comforting. And when I think back to this, I feel that God was more not the doctor standing over me disgusted, but I do see God as a God who was crying or weeping over the circumstance, having compassion. And yes, God does not like that babies are killed, and there is a righteous anger, but we also have a very compassionate God, very compassionate. And anyways, my son's coughing in the background here. So what you want to do is you want to be able to communicate through this, communicate. And one of the things that doesn't happen during an abortion crisis is usually there's not enough communication. So when you are going through the healing, you want to make sure you have the communication. You want to make sure you have a voice, and you can say, you know what, I actually don't agree with you here, or I don't see it your way, or I have put a boundary up, and you're stepping on my boundary. You are actually asking me to take some responsibility for something that I did not really have a choice in. In this curriculum, the only problem I have with it, well, a couple things, is that number one, they ask you to take responsibility for your part, and if you're a victim, there really is not like a lot you can take responsibility for. And the other thing is, where it's only 9 weeks and this happened before to me, sometimes that's not enough time to think about closure and grieving and just wrapping it up and like naming your baby. So I appreciate, I guess, I do appreciate, like, there's women who have been through this, and you can talk, and as you talk about things, you are bringing it to light. But you also want to have a voice, and you want to trust your judgment. A lot of times when you've had an abortion, your boundaries are down. They've just taken your baby, they pulled it and tore it out of your womb. Your boundaries are down. You've got people around you, blaming you for everything, blaming you that you got pregnant, blaming you, somehow the condom broke and it's your fault that the condom broke. And as you heal, you're building your boundaries back up. You're in a healthy way, not just like, oh, I have boundaries, leave me alone, but a healthy boundary. And you're also your judgment, your gut, you're going with your gut some more, and you're realizing, yeah, back then I was taken advantage of, and I didn't really have much of a voice. I was a kid, I had to listen to the adults, and now I do have a voice, and no one's going to take that away, so to say. And so there's a lot to deal with. But when you're going through, I guess what I want to do is encourage women, when you're going through a healing class, a post-abortive healing class, give yourself extra grace. Don't be too hard on yourself, because there is a lot you're dealing with. It is hard work. And when someone says to you, well, you ought to be through done this by now, or it's been a long time, or whatever, don't worry about it. Take all the time that you need, because it is a very heavy thing to go through. And when you saw that doctor looking at you in a disgusted way, you didn't have anyone to help you through that. When you have a person shaming you, you didn't have anyone to help you with that. When you have somebody pressuring you, manipulating you, not telling you what an abortion is, not having informed consent, you didn't have anyone. When someone's pulling that baby out of you and you just think it's like your blood and your I don't even know what you think it is, like a beginning of a pregnancy, you didn't have anyone. When you're being, laying down in pain, for me it was at a restaurant, no medication. You didn't have anyone to comfort you, to help you. So don't feel bad about going through those things, and even getting to the deeper things. Like, okay, so for me it was my mother, don't tell me you're pregnant. So for that wasn't just don't tell me you're not pregnant. It was, oh my goodness, you messed up. How could you have messed up? There are always like underlying messages in the communication that whether it's body language or whether it's just the words or the way they're said or the pitch they're said in or whatever. There is a lot to get through. So I just want to encourage women, if you're going to choose to go through one of these classes, go for it. Healing is so important. Don't put it off. It's going to, eventually you're going to feel a lot lighter. I know for me, like this week I felt lighter dealing with stuff, even feeling like, okay, so somebody just disrespected me again, and feeling like, okay, you can just trust God through that, and you don't have to, not that I'm taking it personal, but you don't have to voice yourself on that one. Just relax. And so just know that it can be tough, but it's well worth it, and it's well worth taking care of yourself, and it will pay for your future.